Good morning, my Teaserking family. How is everybody on this Sunday? I looked out the window. It's a little cloudy. It was raining. It stopped raining. News on the coup. Putin actually decided to overthrow Putin, and that's what this whole thing was about. Like they just quit, I guess. And Putin didn't like it, and he said no, no, and called them traitors. Is Russian. I don't even know if like my girlfriend in St. Pete even knew that this happened. It's probably not on the news. Putin did make a speech on YouTube, but it was in Russian. I didn't. It was just like, well, we want everything to be fair and all this bullshit. So didn't pay much attention. My girlfriend in Ukraine's okay. She's fine. She's with the baby. So nothing like that. I guess they just send her and see what they can destroy. What it's not like it's a war like the Nazis where the Russians are just pounding in all the building. Oh, baseball yesterday. We had a good day at the lock with Scherzer wins with the Mets. The lock with Tampa Bay loses as the pitcher who is 0-11 with the 7 ERA actually beat him. But that's what happens. You play roulette, you bet on black, you bet on black. Eventually, but you won all the black bets. So we've won 5 or 6 bets betting against the guy in Kansas City. And now he finally won. Well, it was going to happen, but overall, we made a lot of money on him. Just a second, I'll get my coffee. All right. Sorry about that. Excuse me. I'm making a bigger kettle of water because I make a cup of coffee with it, and then I throw it in the pot with all the ginger to make ginger tea. So it's like I get 3 or 4 cups in my pot, so it takes a little bit longer. Anyway, so we can quickly talk baseball. I saw there was a 10:30 game today. I was like, really? A 10:30 game? What the fuck are they doing? I mean, they don't even have a clue. I never saw baseball trying to speed the game up, not improve the quality, decrease the quality by having pitch counts or pitch clocks and hitting clocks and all this bullshit that is immaterial, doesn't, it just makes it more stupid. So there's a few games I really liked today. Good Lord. It's the top of the 5th. This game that started at 10:30. The Cards 6, the Cubs 4. The over-under in the game yesterday was 13, and I gave it to you as a very strong play, the under, and it was 9-1, so it did go under. And then California wins 25-1. So I gave you that as an over. Anyway, we've got 20 minutes, Minnesota and Detroit. Series, I think, is tied at 1. We got Bradley Ober, 4 and 4 with a 2.83 against Michael Lorenzo, and 2 and 5 with a 4. So I like Minnesota there. The better pitching, probably an under, because Detroit has 2 hitters over 250. I've never seen a team for the last 5 years that only has 2 or 3 hitters that hit over 250. I mean, Cabrera, what a stupid. They should just cut him. Here's your money and goodbye. And that's it. Instead, they keep weakening their team by having this guy. You can't hit 200, can't play, doesn't help the team. The fuck's he still doing there? Well, we owe him $30 million a year. Well, that's your mistake. You should renegotiate with him 5 years ago and say, we're going to buy you out for $100 million. So instead of $30 million a year for 5 years, we're going to renegotiate. They do it all the time. The players rip up the contract, and so should have done like, look, we'll pay you out. We'll give you $10 million a year for 5 years. We'll give you $50 million, like Magic Johnson, that's a year for 25 years, and that's the point. Like that, just look, you can't hit. You hit. You're not even a minor leaguer now. You're old. You're injured. Here's $10 million a year for years. Walk away. We need actual. They're gonna sit there and die with the guy. So this is why you're 33 and 42, and the Mets and the Twins are 39 and 9. So I like probably an under game, but I'll take Minnesota. Seattle and Baltimore. Now we get more to a 130 game. We got Kirby 6 and 6 with the 3.29 for Seattle, and Bradish 3 and 3 with the 3.80 for Baltimore. It was a low scoring game yesterday, so we'll go under today. Both pitchers are decent, under 4 ERAs. So a pitcher can just come up. It's all matchups, right? The Seattle pitcher might beat Baltimore. He might know how to pitch them. And again, these earned run averages, they're just averages. Now, Texas and the Yankees, we know Texas, big hitting team, they lost 1-0 yesterday. So they probably don't hit that well in Yankee Stadium. I don't know what it is. The Yankees didn't have good pitching. But today we got Eovaldi for Texas, 9 and 3 with a 2.80 against Garrett Cole, 8 and 1 with a 2.64, over under of 8. We're going under 8. We're going to lock that. We're taking the NYY under 8 lock. Because they played to a 1-0 game without a good pitcher yesterday. Now you got 2 aces going. You got to bet it under. So I love this game under Texas. Because Texas doesn't obviously hit well in New York. Big left field fence. So we're taking the under 8 here. The Mets and the Phillies. Bobby played yesterday. Had a couple of hits. We got Carrasco for the Mets. Where's Verlander? I thought he followed Scherzer. 2 and 3 with a 6.34. You can tell the difference. Zach Wheeler for Philly. 6 and 4 with a 3.48. I like the Phillies here. Zach Wheeler at home. The Mets did win with Scherzer yesterday. It was a 4-2 game. It did stay under. Oakland and Toronto. Toronto beat them yesterday. Luis Medina 1 and 6 with a 7.01 for Oakland. He's the epitome of the Kansas City guy. And UC Kakuki for Toronto, 6 and 2 with a 3.97. Over under 9. I'm going to go over 9. Toronto can hit. They're going to put up a lot of runs. I'm not sold on UC Kakuki. I thought he gave up 10 runs last game, so I'm going to stay away from him. But I will play the game over 9. So Toronto should cover it by themselves. Milwaukee and Cleveland played a pretty low-scoring game yesterday. We got Burns for Milwaukee, 5 and 5 with a 3.96 against Aaron Chevalier, 2 and 2 with a 2.67 for Cleveland. I'm going to go under 8 here. Neither team really hits too well. And two pretty good pitchers, Chevalier, Burns. Yeah. So a 2.67 and a 3.9. Let's go under with weak hitting teams. Atlanta and Cincinnati's played to an 11-10 game yesterday. We got Charles Morton, 6-6 with a 3.71 for Atlanta, and Levi Strauss, 0-1 with a 10.29 ERA for Cincinnati. Let's take Atlanta here. Morton's okay, good ERA, but this Levi Strauss just is he's a pig. So we'll bet on the better pitcher. Pitt and Miami, we got Oviedo for Pitt, 3-7 with the 4.30. We got Perez, 4-1 with the 1.54 for Miami. So I like Miami here with the better pitcher. KC Tampa now. Here's where you can't look at the records. KC's won the first two, and they beat McCullough. So we've got Lynch 1-3 with the 4.57 against Tyler Glass now, 2-1 with the 4.97. You get 250s the money line. I'm taking Kansas City here just because they're on a roll. They beat them the first two games. They beat McCullough. That gives you a lot of confidence. That's how I look at it. So Glasgow's 2-1 with the 5 ERA against Lynch, 1-3 with the 4.5. So it's bad pitching all around. Maybe you get an over 8.5, but the KC's hot. I'm playing KC. That's the way, red hits, black hits, whatever sitting you play. The Red Sox, the White Sox. We got Cutter Crawford, 2-3 with the 3.74 against Tanner Banks, 0-2 with the 4.70. Over under 10. But it's in Chicago, not Boston. I don't know. I'm going to leave this alone. The pitching's kind of bad there. California, Colorado, over under 13. Now, California won 25-1 yesterday. Now, if this was football, they'd be yelled at for piling it on. Baseball, you really can't tell the guy to go up and strike out. I mean, they're all going to hit, so you can't bitch about 25-1. Baseball is totally different than football. You can take a knee, right? Baseball, you go up to hit. You're not going to go strike out. I mean, you're getting paid to hit. You get paid for your batting average. There's no way you're going up to strike out. We got over under 13 against Colorado. Tyler Anderson, 4-1 with the 5.64. Austin Gumber, 4-7 with the 7. So we're going to lock this. We're locking Colorado over 13. After yesterday, I guarantee you California is going to put up 10 runs themselves. There should be a very high scoring game. Two weak pitchers, a 5 and a 7. So I don't see where either team's going to be under 8 or 9 runs here. Arizona and the 49ers. We got Ryan Nelson, 3-4 with the 5.31 for Arizona. We got Anthony Descafdi, 4-6 with the 4.38 for the Niners. So we got to go over 9 here. Both kind of weak pitching. Look for the hitters. Arizona can hit. The Niners can hit. How can you bet either pitcher? I'm going to bet a 4-6 guy with a 4.38 ERA. See, the earlier day when Don asked, the pitcher on Arizona had a 7 ERA. Well, you can't bet under the guy with the 7. And the other guy's got a 4. If he was the ace and he was a 2, you'd bet the ace. Washington 3-6 with the 4.02 against Lugo for San Diego. 3-3 for 3.86. So the pitching's pretty even. I don't know, over or under. Let's leave that alone. In Houston and LA, I think the Dodgers won yesterday, over under 8. Hunter Brown for Houston, 6-4 at the 3.78 against Tony Gonsolin, 4-2 with the 2.92. So this is definitely an under. You got two strong pitchers going. Let's go under. Hey, Kenzie, how are you? What's going on? Glad to hear from you. Hope you're well. And I'm here. I'm waiting for you. So we've got probably an under here, Houston and the Dodgers. So that's baseball. So 2 locks. The Yankees under 8 and Colorado over 13 are the locks. I'm good. Not really. I just don't go on Instagram that much. Why don't you just go on WhatsApp where I'm at and do that, or go to my site www.teaserking.com and get my email, and you can email me. So either one. I think I've emailed you before. I emailed your boss, but you can do that. But I'm here. I mean, I didn't go anywhere. I just don't go on Instagram that much. That's why I go on WhatsApp. But anyway, so I'm here. So that's baseball. I want to get back to alligator. Kind of finish that up. What else are we talking about today? Football we talked about this weekend, Friday, Saturday. Will you get back to me on Telegram? We need to talk. Okay, I'll get back on it after class. But certainly. So let's get back to alligator. Alligator McLeod. So alligator did a long one on Say's Law, which very interesting. Let's go down to where it is. But it really explains a lot. But it's what I teach you. So it's nothing new that I don't teach you, but now you get a better understanding of it. Yes, Kenzie, I said yes. I'll get back on. Not right now, but after class, I'll be fine. I'm talking about this. This economist wrote this, so I'm clarifying it for the class. Let's see. GDP and government spending. No, I think we got further. Let's get a little bit lower. It's such a long read, but he's very good at it. Almost as good as I am. Well, basically, he talks that how the Keynesians are idiots, right? Economists subsequently formulating status policies badly misread the causes of a slump because they don't understand. They take away Say's Law, which is free market, and you can't live without free market. They still fail to appreciate that there's a cycle of bank credit identified by economists of the Austrian school. Hello. I did a video on the trade cycle. There was 13, I think, steps in the cycle. I pointed out where we were, and I can certainly redo that one. That's a very strong one that you should understand. Okay, Kenzie. Well, you'll know when I'm done. I'll be here, and then when I'm done, I will be there. Don't worry. I'm with you. If you got me. It is caused by bankers acting as a cohort, increasing the quantity of credit to point where the balance sheet exposes. Too technical, alligator. It can be traced so far as reasonable record in the UK so far back at the okay. For economists, it's always easier to observe the evidence of an economic downturn and its underlying cause. And this is what I keep pointing out to. This is the cause. You're inflating the dollars. Everything else is the effect of you fucking this up. This is why we buy gold and silver, because they are fucking this to zero, and all this that's going to collapse because of that. But they're not going to blame this because they don't even understand that they're printing, like in their minds, they're giving money out, which is all the inflation, but they don't even understand it. They go, oh, well, people will go spend, that'll create the economy. They're like over here missing, and we're all over here. This is the problem of what's going on. These stupid economists don't have a fucking clue, which is probably why it's hard for me, because I'll sit there from the other side going, well, what the fuck? They're fucking the dollar, and nobody understands what I'm talking about. Only economists in the Austrian school have pointed out that the depression was the natural consequence of excessive credit expansion in the previous decade, or inflation. So the depression was caused by the inflation of the 20s, where they overprinted. And then they did tax increases. Tax increases always slow the economy. They make things more expensive. Just like inflation and higher interest rates make things more expensive. Of course, it's going to slow the economy. It has to. So, and Keynes followers with their mathematical and statistical macroeconomic are still blind to the role of bank credit underlying booms and slumps. They think they can model the economy, steering it from one objective to another by suppressing free markets, but they cannot model human bankers' balance for greed, for profit, and fear of losses. Economic and policy and monetary policies ignore Say's law, the law of the markets. And this is the whole point. This is why I teach you Say's law. But this is what they're missing. They want to do price controls. They want to raise it. Well, we'll raise interest rates to do this and that. And it's all bullshit. It's not, they don't get it. That's why when I tell you to buy gold is because they're going to make the dollar go to zero, because they're going to keep putting money into the system. And every time they put money into the system, inflation, but they don't even know it's inflation. So they're the cause of the inflation. They're the cause of printing more money, valuing it, because the more plentiful the dollar, the less it's worth. And if you're trying to and you're trying to do all this, it's simple. Stop inflating. Let the market heal. Let Say's law take over. But that's the last thing they'll do, because they won't have control over it. I was watching this video on Cuba this morning, which I'm going to play about 5 minutes, and it'll basically explain everything to you. It's a nice wrap up. The errors in currency management, consumer price inflation, which is not real. Interest rates will have to be raised to the extent that the UK economy enters a recession, but with broad money supply no longer expanding, we can see that there's something wrong with his analysis. There is no price inflation. There's only one thing that gets inflated. It's the money. Inflation is like, think of it as a balloon. It's you're blowing up the money. You're making the money expand and expand and expand. That's inflation. You're inflating it. You're printing it. How do you have price inflation? How do you have wage inflation? It doesn't exist. There's no such thing. Prices go up for two reasons. One, supply, or one, demand. Everybody wants ribs, so I'm going to raise my price. Or the inflation makes the dollar worth less, so it takes more dollars to buy it. So they need more dollars as the loan, right? So if you use that example, I'm going to loan Bobby $50,000, but I got to take the risk of Bobby's going to pay me back. No offense, Bobby. And if I'm going to loan you 50, that's a business for me. I want to get back 55. So therefore, the money I'm loaning him is going to be inflated back. The dollars will be worth less. So really, if I just gave him that and gave him 5% interest, I'd probably get back about 45,000. Pretty stupid move on my part. I'm giving him 50 to get back 45. So I got to charge enough interest to get 55 back after the inflation is going to kill my 50 down to 45. So you're going to have higher interest rates. So that's why costs go up, those two reasons. There's only one reason why the purchasing power of a fiat currency changes, and it is in the behavior of its users. By adjusting the relationship of their immediate liquidity to their spending, collectively, they can have a profound impact on its purchasing power. This is why the state theory of money fails, and the monetary authorities always fail to control the purchasing power of their fiat currency. And currency must be anchored to real money, which is gold, which obviously is all we talk about here. So if I anchor this, if this is backed by gold, I can't print it to death. I can only print as much gold as I have. And you can come in and say, I want my gold, and I got to give you the gold back for the dollar because it's backed by gold, which is what BRICS is going to do, which is going to make the gold and silver prices go through the moon. That's what it is. But if you don't have an anchor, it means you can keep printing. And again, the more you print, there's too much paper out there, the less it's worth. It loses value. There's too much. There's a flood of it. And when you have a flood of dollars, you have a flood of anything. If all of a sudden I made 100,000 cases of this, you got to have enough buyers, or you're going to be selling it for $10 a bottle because it's going to sit on your shelves and you're going to need to sell it. So if you got so much dollars here, if you got too much dollars, it's just sitting there. The value goes down. The demand goes down. There's too much. So anyway, that's what happens. When banknotes were fully exchangeable for gold, their purchasing power remained constant. Coincidence. Irrespective of the quantity in circulation. But banknotes are typically less than a tenth of the circulation medium, the balance being bank credit. So what you got to understand now, this is credit. This is bank credit. The bank's loaning you this. And you go to the bank so this is not money, this is credit. This is fiat. Government money is fiat money. But as this drops, gold goes up. So JP Morgan's doing their best to fix the gold price down. And anytime you fix the price, which we're going to get to in the Cuban video, you'll like that. Anytime you fix the price, eventually it blows up, and when the price is not going to go 2,000 to 3,000, you're going to put a zero at it. It's going to go to 20. The solution: leave markets alone and bring back sound money. I don't really need to go much more into that. Basically, the government wants to use us for taxes so they can run the government. So they need money, right? So the government prints money, but they let us work in the private sector. We got to pay sales tax. We got to pay income tax, capital gains tax. We hit the lottery tax. I mean, it's all bullshit. And that's the problem with that. The taxes are so they can run, right? And keep us down and keep us controlled. So your best way out is if you own gold. A, they don't know you have it, so they can't really, do anything. And B, the value of it's going to go up to the moon because they've been controlling it for 50 years. Well, Howard, what's changing? BRICS. BRICS is the change. Just like Brady not being on New England anymore. Why did New England stop winning? Because Brady's gone. So there's a variable there. You can't just think, oh, New England's going to win every year. They're going to win the Super Bowl. And then they didn't win it. What happened? Oh, Brady's gone. What happened? BRICS came along saying, we want gold-backed currency. the U.S. fucked their money around and inflated it, where all of a sudden the money's, even though they're the reserve currency, it doesn't matter if the currency is worthless. Reserve currency times zero is zero. So that's really the problem, is if you ruin the currency, it doesn't matter if you're the reserve. We're not really the reserve anymore because it's not the petrodollar anymore. Saudi Arabia doesn't like us and said, fuck you, and we'll use the yuan or we'll use the ruble or whatever. And then they convert it into gold. They're smart enough. All the central banks are buying gold for bricks because the currency is going to be backed by gold. And they're going to need gold to have it and to get out of debt. Nobody wants to deal with you if you have bad credit and debt and all that stuff. That's what caused the housing market. People with bad credit who couldn't pay it back were getting loans for houses. Well, big surprise, they couldn't afford when the interest rate went up from 2 to 4, and they're bailing on their houses. But the idiots in the Ritz are the ones that got fucked because they get 8%, 9%, pending the people pay their mortgages, which they couldn't because their credit was sucked. And that was all put in place by your favorite president and not mine, Jim Clinton. So Clinton fucked everybody over by saying, oh, everybody should own a house. Even if you have no credit and you can't afford to pay it back, we'll cover you. That's what he said. So once you knew that, I would never have invested in a REIT because you knew it was going to collapse because interest rates would go up and people couldn't afford it. People aren't paying into the REIT. So the REIT's a bunch of mortgages. Let's say there's 10 mortgages and they're all paying 8% on their mortgage, right? And then I'm going to give you, 7%, but you only get 3% in the saving loan. So you go, wow, I can get 7%. It's mortgage. Great. And then 3 of the people stop paying their mortgage. Now I don't have money coming into the REIT to pay you because they're giving me 8 and I'm giving you 7, right? Or 6 or whatever. Maybe they're giving me 10 and I'm giving you 8. So it's always the middleman, right? But if I don't get the money coming in, I can't give you the money out. And that's what happened. So all of a sudden, these all became worthless because people weren't paying their mortgages. So they're not getting the money in. And margin call, and obviously they should have paid them. That was you're giving me 8%. Regardless if you get the 10% from the people with the mortgages. So the banks, being the banks, fucked everybody over, said, we're going out of business. Good luck. You lost all your money. And then you get attack on Wall Street and the guy gets pissed. And again, he's put into it because he trusted a financial planner or a stockbroker or one of these financial salesmen. And don't ever confuse me with a financial salesman. I'm not. I'm always an economist and a handicapper and an INFJ. So don't ever confuse me with that. I am never selling you anything. Well, I'm selling you football, but I make you a lot of money there. So I can prove that. And it's not like it can ever go to zero. I can't say, oh, yeah, your money's zero. No, I teach you how to bet. I teach you the games to play. All you got to do is bet it. So I don't take your money. If you lose betting football, that's your fault by not handling your bankroll properly, because I'm giving you enough winners to be profitable, and that's what I show on my site. My damn glasses aren't cleaning. They're like smudging. That's a little bit. I still see the smudge. Anyway, so I'm not selling you anything. Therefore, if I'm telling you to buy gold, there's nothing for me. And I can certainly never say, oh, your gold's worth zero. Your gold hasn't been worth zero since the Roman times. It always had a value and it always will. The pyramids, why do you think they built them? The King Tut or whatever on Batman, he gets buried in the pyramid with all his gold. It was a safe. It was so he could get buried with gold and keep it. Now, I don't know what he was going to do with it, dead, but that's the problem with gold. A lot of people just keep it, waiting for it to go up. It goes up, and then they don't really spend it. You spend a little of it, take a nice vacation, you buy a nice house, you buy a nice car. That's what I'm going to do with it. And then I'll give it to my my friends and family and say, here, go enjoy. And like Jenna and Daria, know my girls, they'll be taken care of. And that's what happens. So basically, what you have in government now is a bunch of socialists, but they're really not. They're just evil people. And they're greedy son of a bitches. And they're there for themselves, not for us. So they're a bunch of psychopaths. And all they want to do is collect money, like Biden, right? What does he do? He gets all this money. He gets money from China, from the Ukraine, from Russia, gets kickbacks to let people into the border. Obviously, he doesn't care about us. So that's what you got in government now. You got these people that are absolutely insane. There should not be, the lobbyists should not be legal. Because right there, it skews everything. If some guy gives me $10 million to vote this way or that way, I'd be out of my mind not to take it. Even though I really don't want to raise taxes, or I really don't want to give somebody priority, how are you going to turn down $10 million? That's the problem. The lobbyists should be canceled. The central banks should be canceled. All this shit should be gone, and let me represent you. How do I make life better for everybody? Well, that's what I'm doing here, basically, right? Buy gold and silver, get out of the dollar, because you don't know the dollar is going to zero. I'm telling you. You don't know to buy gold and silver. I'm telling you. I'm telling you this, you'll be fine. So I'm really working for you. I'm trying to make your life better. I give you football picks. I teach economics and poker and how to deal with women if you're a man, or men if you're a woman. Teach you about life, teach you health, poker, everything. What to eat, what not to eat. So I'm trying to make your life better so you can enjoy it better and less stress and distant, So this is what I'm trying to do. As if I'm like a politician, but I can't control the money supply. But that's okay. We don't need to control it. We just take it and use it to buy the gold and the silver. That's what we do with it. So that's why I'm bitching at all these Keynesians that come on, because that's all they know. Oh, velocity. There's no such thing as velocity. Doesn't matter how much. If you go to the grocery store and they go here and they go there and they go there and goes around, that's fail. Nope. That's not what inflation is. It's the printing of the money from the government, the handouts. If I go work and make $10 and I go spend $10, we need $10 to do all that. That's fine. That's perfect. That's what you need the money for. As long as it's productive. I worked for it. I got it. I spent it. Then that's not inflation. It's the government handouts, Social Security, even though it's not a handout, the welfare, the giving money to the Ukraine, all these voting shit. It's all this free. Oh, here's COVID money. Here's, we gotta feed the poor. That's just to grow the economy. They're not doing it for the poor. They're doing it to the economy because they think that their whole goal is to raise GDP. They print money for GDP. That's their goal. What the fuck is that? That's not that's not the point. You're not trying to do that. You're trying to increase the productivity and standard of living of everybody. So like I say, if computers come out or cell phones and they're expensive and they go down in price, that's not deflation, and it makes our lives better. It's very simple. We don't need government involvement. That's why it's the invisible hand. Get the government the fuck out. Stop putting in regulations. Stop taxing us. Just let it be between me and my job and the store. Leave it alone. We don't need taxes. We don't need regulations. Taxes are for the government. All right. With that, we're going to go to Cuba. Now, I stumbled on this video here, Cuba, poor, rich and then poor. And I'm going to show you about 5 minutes of it. The synopsis is they have a lot of sugar cane. That's their product. And during World War I, in Europe, there was a lot of sugar cane, but they burned it all. It was a walking war with some tanks, and they basically burned all the sugarcane fields or whatever. I don't know exactly when. So they burned them all, but Cuba had, and Cuba was a democracy. And as I say, what happened? And put in whatchamacallit, the communist leader. Not Hussein, but I can see him. Castro, and they put Castro in, saying he's not a communist, even though he was. So the socialists come and the communists come, and they destroy Cuba to the point where there's people going blind, people can't eat because it's not the free market anymore. It's now a controlled market by the government, and this is the example of what I'm trying to teach you. So let's go. Hate these fucking Tic Tac ads or ads. I mean, you want to get to the video.
Wake of the announcement, successive rounds of nationalizations.
Okay.
World War,
5 minutes.
Economic fate would be forever changed. As Europe's sugar beet fields were ruined by trench warfare, 20% of the global supply vanished. As price controls were lifted at the end of the war, the price of sugar would undertake its most dramatic rise ever. At 7.3 cents per pound, the price was already much higher than anyone could have expected. Yet by the end of the harvest, it had ballooned to 22.5 cents. The 1919.
So, what do you think is going to happen when gold and silver finally go to their thing? This went from 7 cents for sugar cane, because I'm sure JP Morgan had a hand in it, keeping the price down, to then it went to free markets to $22. 7 cents to $22. What do you think is going to happen to gold and silver once we get JP Morgan out of the fucking way, right? So that's a perfect example of price control, and then they let it go to market.
Harvest would flood the Cuban economy with $1 billion. That amount was more than the profits generated from the last 14 years combined. Small-scale sugar farmers were now wearing the finest clothing and going on shopping sprees in Havana. Thinking these prices would be the new normal, Cubans and Americans alike scrambled to take out loans to greatly expand their production capabilities. Yet as quick as the price rose, the bubble had popped by the end of the year. Many farmers found themselves with unpayable debts. And as a result, 20 Cuban banks failed. The American banks not only survived, but took this opportunity to buy up bankrupted sugar mills and even more farmland. In the aftermath, Cubans would only own about 20% of their nation's sugar production, a fact that would give rise to growing nationalist resentments toward the United States. Substantial boost. During the First World War, America had emerged as the world's economic superpower. It now yielded a huge middle class with more disposable income than ever before, and a demand to spend it on trips abroad. But as Europe was recovering from years of massive conflict, and with the United States outlawing the consumption of alcohol, Cuba became the new prime vacation spot. From 1914 to 1937, the number of American tourists arriving in Cuba had increased by almost six-fold. Massive investment into lavish hotels, huge horse racing tracks, casinos, restaurants, resorts, and state-of-the-art infrastructure transformed the capital Havana into a modern, bustling, and rich beyond belief city. Year after year, American tourists increasingly showered the small island nation's economy in dollars. But the Cuban economy was hiding a dark side. As casinos started appearing almost out of thin air, so too did the slums surrounding the dockyards that luxury furniture. Cuba was becoming rich, but only for a tiny slice of independent farmers struggled to make ends meet as the American bank bought them up closure to prostitution to keep their children.
Does that sound familiar? BlackRock, Bill Gates buying farms to nationalize it. So there's a lot of parallels in Cuba that's happening as it becomes. That's why it's got to be free market economics. It's got to be me being the farmer for sugar selling to you at the price that we both agree on. Once you get it nationalized, what happens? So now the big company sells and controls the price, and then the little farmers are fucked. And that's what's happening. Gates buying all the farms, although he doesn't know what to do with stuff in them. They don't actually buy them. But sounds familiar.
Meanwhile, Cuba's government had become corrupt and despotic, buying votes and viciously cracking down on opposition, operating more like the mob that held meetings in their casinos than a government that represented the interests of its people. And as the world entered the Great Depression, the Cuban economy, which relied on sugar and tourists, would feel the terrible effects more than most. By 1958, Cuba had been led by a bloody military dictatorship under Fulgencio Batista for the past 6 years. By now, Cuba was neither poor nor rich. Educational campaigns made it the most literate nation in Latin America, and they enjoyed early social and workplace freedoms. Yet the economy had been more or less stagnant since the Great Depression, while inequality continued to worsen. The people wanted a change. They wanted to be free of corporate colonialism, free of military dictatorship, and in its place, they wanted a government that would uphold the interests of all Cubans. They did not, however, want a communist revolution. But as Fidel Castro landed in Cuba and launched his guerrilla warfare campaign against the government, the people rose up in his support. He hid his true ideological aspirations. He did not have the support of the Cuban Communist Party until the very end, and the coalition that helped him come to power was overwhelmingly social democratic and anti-communist. Not just were the Cuban people blind to his communist leanings, but even the CIA's foremost expert on Latin America stated Castro is not only not a communist, he is a strong anti-communist fighter. Yet once in power, his aims became more apparent. In just 9 months, Castro enacted sweeping reforms in 1,500 new laws, decrees, and edicts. Wages were raised, rents were lowered, electrical and telephone rates were cut, and he enacted the long sought-after agrarian reforms. The maximum size of plots of land were reduced, and the workers of the land were granted small plots. Land larger than the threshold was seized by the government and turned into state-run farms. This meant that the United States' huge investments were now controlled and owned by the Cuban government. But what truly enraged the U.S. was the signing of a joint trade partnership with their ideological nemesis, the Communist Soviet Union. The Soviets agreed to acquire 20% of Cuba's sugar for the next 5 years, paying in cash, machinery, the help of Soviet technicians, and crucially, 6 million barrels of oil. But that oil needed to be processed at one of the 3 American-owned refineries on the island. Esso, Shell, and Texaco, under pressure from Washington, refused to refine the Soviet oil. Castro immediately seized and nationalized the refineries, prompting the U.S. to hit back hard. They cut the sugar quota, which was an agreement to buy a percentage of Cuba's sugar at a previously agreed-upon rate. That sugar quota had cornerstone of the Cuban economy for the entirety of the 20th century. Castro, furious, seized all U.S.-owned assets on the island, from petroleum operations, telephone and electric companies, banks, railroads, hotels, casinos, distilleries, and all remaining sugar ventures. For the first time, diplomatic relations between the two nations had been cut off, and the United States would carry out counter-Castro operations for decades, including the Bay of Pigs invasion, supporting insurgency groups, and 636 failed assassination attempts. But the action that hurt Cuba the most was John F. Kennedy's complete embargo on Cuban goods. This almost entirely shut off Cuba from trade with the Western world, which still stands to this very day. This embargo then necessitated and forced Cuba into the hands of the Soviet Union, who would later secretly deploy weapons of mass destruction in Cuba, missile crisis, in which the world would come the closest it has ever been to nuclear Armageddon. This would also be around the same time that Castro announced to the world, for the very first time, that the Cuban Revolution was indeed a socialist one.
Lo que no pueden perdonarnos los imperialistas es que estemos aquí y que hayamos hecho una revolución socialista en la propia narices de nosotros y que esa revolución socialista la defendemos con esos fusiles.
Say hello to our world. Explore new places
Really?
full of delicious global cuisine.
In the wake of the announcement, successive rounds of nationalizations eroded the foundations of the market economy, eventually bringing all private operations under the direct control of the state. Everything from street vendors, retailers, bars, grocery stores, banks, or mills would be owned and operated solely by the government. It would set prices for every good, demand farmers sell products at a specific price, and tell industries exactly what and how much to produce. Wage differences between occupations would be greatly reduced, while the state tried to use moral incentives like country rather than material incentives as the basis of labor motivation. But Cuba during this early socialist period would only make half-hearted attempts at typical detailed central planning like that observed. Inputs became available for enterprises to reach assigned output quotas, newly constructed factories would be closed due to missing components, and maintenance was commonly neglected. In the goal of rapid industrialization, the accumulation of productive assets was given over consumer products, yet the spending and investment was haphazard and inefficient. Everyone was guaranteed a job, but this often meant overemployment, 20% of employees not showing up for work, and foot dragging when they did. A study in 1968 to the matter found that as much as 50% of the working day's productivity was lost to such actions. This was exacerbated by the professional and managerial classes fleeing the country in the wake of the revolution. Those who took their place as heads of industry were chosen based on their loyalty to the revolution rather than their merit and expertise. On account of all of this, the economy contracted. Even Cuba's main profit-making sector, agriculture, saw its total output reduced by 23% in just 5 years after the revolution. Yet the economy managed to stay afloat due to generous loans and trade deals with the Soviet Union. While there were some successes early on, like a major initiative to make the population educated and literate with good access to social safety nets and healthcare, the early socialist Cuban economy proved to be a failure. Not to mention Castro's brutal and repressive actions.
So, first they have capitalism. They grow, they're rich, the sugar, free market. Then you bring in a communist dictator, and then Castro comes in as a communist dictator and doesn't agree with the U.S. Russia backs him. Look what happens when communism takes over. Or they call it socialism. Does it all sound familiar? Because it sure as fuck is. That's exactly what's happening here. You have Biden and the communist Chinese taking over. Do we have free markets? Don't know. I wouldn't think so. Fortunately, they're not controlling, salaries yet, but they're trying to control companies with this woke bullshit. Well, if you don't do this, then you can't do that. That's not government's role to control companies. Did you have a COVID shot? Oh, you can't work here if you don't have a COVID shot. What the fuck is that? If I want to get a shot, I get a shot. If I don't want to get a shot, I don't get a shot. That's got nothing to do with me being hired. So anyway, I'm going to go get some tea, and then we will talk about Cuba. So what was the problem with Cuba? They made money on the sugar. Now the sugar really wasn't, they kind of stumbled into it. So let's get into supply and demand. Europe has World War One. And I'm going to nuke up my General Chow. Oh, pardon me. So, Cuba stumbles into sugarcane. That's what they have on the island. It grows. They're making some money on it. World War One happens, which destroys all the sugarcane or most of it in Europe, making them now the only ones with it. So now they almost have a monopoly, which you can see why JP Morgan likes monopolies. With no competition, they can raise the price. Everybody has to buy from them. Life is good. They grow. They add hotels, casinos, racetracks, everything else. Then here comes the dragon. You're rich. The bad guys come to take your money. That's what happens every time. That's why all these countries collapse. That's what happened here. What happened here? Who comes? The bad guys come. The communists come, because that's what they do. And they kind of divide and conquer, and they make sure they take the, they want to take over. And the only way to beat the U.S. is to get them divided, which is what they're trying to do. The left versus the right, the red versus the blue, the, different whites versus blacks versus blues versus greens. The second. It's funny how when I nuke it, the box gets a hole in it from the heat. It's funny how that happens. Anyway, so you can see what's happening now. China's trying to come into the U.S. and destroy it and defeat it, because they can't defeat us militarily. We're just too darn strong, as Tim Allen would say on Galaxy Quest. You know what? You're right. We're going to pack up the omega-13 for you. So the dragons come in, which are the Russians, and with the communists take all the money and leave everybody fucked. Now, how do the communists do this? And that the free market system is the reason that everybody grows and gets strong and makes a lot of money. Invisible hand, free markets, capitalism gets you the money. Communism's come in, and then what do they start doing? They start controlling everybody. They don't want the competition. They want it. So as they said, everything's government run. And what happens with everything government run? They get fucked. There's unemployment, but they give everybody a job, and it's crap. The facilities don't know what to make. They don't know what the market is. They don't have enough supplies. They can't input to get the exports. So basically, they don't know what the fuck they're doing, because it can only happen with Say's law. So the communist can't be in power with Say's law, which is a nice circle for our little topic of Say's law. They can't. With Say's law, we control everything. We're the private sector. Like I said, I want General Chow. I want an avocado. I go buy an avocado. I want General Chow. I go to Chinese and get General Chow. That's the free market. So they have Chinese restaurants because people want General Chow and they make it. but they want a monopoly on money. And that's where the problem comes in, is the government's, aka, now the Federal Reserve is not a government agency, but people think it is, or the Fed, right? It's not federal, it's private banks run by JP Morgan. And inevitably, as you get stronger and grow and richer, they want to come in and take and then set up monopolies and basically destroy it. And that's the phase we're in right now. So you can see, here's Cuba. Now he's lavishing. I bet you the people in Cuba in the 1930s never thought they'd be collapsed by 1960. The Bay of Pigs. See, it's all based. Look at the similarity between U.S. and Cuba and U.S. and China. Cuba goes down the shit because we would buy all the sugar from them, and we would go vacation there. And what does Kennedy do in 61? The Bay of Pigs. I love how they call them weapons of mass destruction. I just call them fucking nuclear bombs, for Christ's sake. The line to gain. It's above the strike zone. Like, what the fuck? What did they think we're idiots with the changing the words? So what you have is the dragon, for the Hobbit, for use of a better term, always comes in to take over. And so Russia comes into Cuba, and they're all communists. So they bring in a communist regime because they want the market to control it. And it's shit there. Massive unemployment, no economy. Castro's in charge. He keeps some money, I guess. I mean, somehow he can live there. People are starving. Their women have to prostitute to take care of their kids. All these little black market things, right? The woman prostitutes, it's off the books. You know, you pay her $100, everything's good. We keep the government out of it. That's why they do it. Well, part of the reason. And that's what happens. That's how you get the black market, because the government takes all your money or taxes you to death, and you end up where the regular citizen gets fucked. The person in charge, Castro, lives a great life, and the Russians come in and they get all the sugar. They just steal it, and they control Cuba because they want to be, this sounds kind of familiar, they want to be close to the U.S. And what are the U.S. doing? They want to take Ukraine and be close to Russia. It all comes back, doesn't it? Yes, Bobby, I'm eating General Chow. So this is what happens. And this is what's happening now. So the fiat money of Cuba and or Russia and or now the U.S. goes to zero because the people in charge think, I'll just keep printing money. The Romans thought that. The British thought that. We'll go to war to stop Hitler. Really? Is that why you really went to war? And actually, this is World War I. So you go to war and you bankrupt yourself. Was that a good decision? So the thing about wars is they're very expensive, and you certainly don't want that to happen. So you must be very careful. This is the problem with elections and people in government. They're not They're really not for you. They're for themselves. So Russia puts Castro in charge here, and it's really a Russian government that they got. All the Cuban people are willing to go in a boat in shark-infested waters and to get to Florida. Like, I don't know what they think is going to happen when they get to Florida, but they're risking their lives, even though there's sharks in the water. That's how bad it is, right? So this is how Russia goes from rich to poor. I knew the answer before I watched it. You go from capitalism to communism. You go from free markets to market controlled by the government. That happens everywhere. That's the problem with Zimbabwe and Venezuela and every fucking country that's hurting. The UK, it's gone socialist. Socialism is communism. There's really no difference. Canada, that's why I laugh at our Canada friend. Well, Canada's fine. Yeah, bullshit. You're socialist. You're not fine. You're declining. You just don't know it yet. They do a good job hiding it. So I'm not going to show you much more of the Cuban video, but I think we got the gist. They were rich because of the sugar cane, because they got lucky, because in World War I they burned it, gave them pretty much a monopoly on sugar cane, which was demanded. Because of the demand, it went from 7 cents to $20, which is what's going to happen with gold and silver. So the demand pushes the price up, makes them rich, brings the dragons, the communists, and the communists take over and they fuck everybody over. This is the problem. If they stayed poor, they'd have been better off, unfortunately. So from 1959, there was Castro, it was communist, it was the worst economy in the world. Plus the U.S. did an embargo on them. So we're not going to trade with you. So they couldn't, even though they had stuff, they couldn't sell it. The Russians bought some of it, but their economy wasn't any better because they had communist run. Communist run, there's no economy. This is why I don't even talk to the communists in the hot tub, because I already know this is what happens in Cuba and Russia and all the communist places. They're fucked. So I know that. It's already there. I've seen it. I've read it. So as soon as you say you're a communist and you read Karl Marx, what kind of discussion do you want me to have with you? It's wrong. You're going to kill all the people. Oh, no, the workers will benefit. How will the workers benefit? Tell me how the workers benefited in Cuba. They're all employed, making nothing, and there was nothing to buy. Your economy sucked. Tell me how you're better. Well, you're working. No big deal. So, anyway, this is the problem with communists. They don't include Say's law, which is free markets. If you don't have free markets, you're fucked. It's as simple as that. Having Say's law, which is me getting a job based on my skill set, spending my money on what I want. Somebody makes what I want: golf clubs, green shirts, red shirts, blue shirts, a car, socks, Canadian Club 12, whatever it is, General Chow, avocados, cell phones, whatever it is, they make it for me and I go and spend and buy it. That's the free market. And once you lose that, you're done. Because without the free market, you're fucked. And it's going away here once there's these regulations by Biden, and here comes COVID. Oh, you got to stay in your house. Wait a minute. You don't tell us what to do. It's free. We have freedom here. We are free to do what we choose. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We can do what we want. What are you talking about? So that's absolutely ridiculous. The COVID's just a test to see if we'll actually listen to these morons. The morons don't have our best interest on it, especially this Michigan governor. She's really bad. And it's all George Soros, who's a Nazi, who's actually behind most of it, he wants the Nazi control. So even though it's 1940 and now it's 2030, it's 90 years later, I can't believe this guy's alive, but he keeps giving money to the communists, to the socialists, to invade and conquer the capitalists. He hates capitalists. But he's got $1 billion from capitalism. It's funny how they make their money from capitalists, but they don't like it. All right. Here's a good one on inflation, which we know about, but I'm going to play it a little anyway.
Knock, knock. Hi there. I'd love to show you what a K-12 powered school is really.
If you enjoy our content, consider becoming a supporting member and access over 70. One can increase without the other. While an increase in the supply of money by a central bank is not wealth generating, it is wealth redistributing. Dangerous growth in state power and sets an economy up for a crash. The real reason those in government favor the policy of a monetary inflation is because it is an effective means to.
I will have to go back more to the beginning.
Prices are going up because there is an additional quantity of money searching for a not increased quantity of commodities. And the newspapers or the theorists call the higher prices inflation. The inflation is not the higher prices. The inflation is the new money pumped into the market. It is this new money that then inflates the prices. Central banks have spent decades flooding the global economy with newly created money. We are told this policy, or what is called a monetary inflation, is needed to stimulate economic growth and to keep unemployment low. But like so many of the justifications that politicians and bureaucrats offer for their actions, this one is a lie. For as we will explore in this video, a rapid expansion of the money supply is economically destructive. It impoverishes the poor and middle class, exacerbates wealth inequality, permits a dangerous growth in state power, and sets an economy up for a crash. The real reason those in government favor the policy of a monetary inflation is because it is an effective means to transfer wealth from the citizens to the state. Monetary inflation breeds not only poverty and chaos, but also government tyranny. Few policies are more calculated to destroy the existing basis of a free society than the debauching of its currency. And few tools, if any, are more important to the champion of freedom than a sound monetary system. Money is a medium of exchange. Money is not wealth. Money can be used as a measure of wealth, but paper currencies and digits added to bank accounts are not a form of wealth. Rather, real wealth consists of the goods and services produced in an economy, which can be put to use to better our lives. A central bank can double the supply of money overnight, but this action would not make an economy wealthier. There would still be the same amount of food, houses, cars, planes, steel, lumber, oil, and all the other things that make up the real wealth of a modern economy. The wealth produced in an economic system and the total monetary value of that wealth are separate and distinct phenomena, explains the economist George Reisman. The one can increase without the other. While an increase in the supply of money by a central bank is not wealth generating, it is wealth redistributing. When money is created, it does not enter the economy in a uniform manner, with each member of a society receiving equal numbers of pounds, panels in the form of loans, bailouts, or asset purchases by the central bank. The beneficiary of the new money may be a government, a business, or a certain individual, but whoever it is, they experience unearned gain. With the newly created money, they can purchase more goods or services, or make investments at a greater level than would otherwise have been possible. It should never be forgotten, writes Reisman, that inflation always represents an unearned gain to whoever is in a position to introduce the newly created money into the economic system through his spending, and a corresponding loss to the individuals who make up the rest of the economic system. When the recipients of new money spend it or invest it, one of the results is a relative impoverishment of the rest of society. For as the new money percolates through the economy, it puts upward pressure on prices, as more dollars compete for an unchanged supply of goods and services. The higher prices that result from an expansion of the money supply lowers everyone else's purchasing power. The recipients of the new money, in effect, transfer goods, services, and assets to themselves that could have been purchased by.
So what that means is Oreo cookies are $5 a pack. Makes the people have to pay more. So it lowers their standard of living because now they're paying more for Oreos and Cheerios and eggs and broccoli and all the food and all the energy, because these people that got the money are buying more of it because they got more money. And so they raise the price on it, but everybody doesn't get the benefit. So therefore, we have to pay more for food and clothing and everything else because the price is going up. That's what they're trying to say. Again, I disagree a little with it because it's still market. You can raise the price on Oreos, but if people don't buy it, you can't. So it always comes back to Say's law and what we're willing to pay for a good is really what happens, right? So if we're willing to pay $5 Oreos, it goes through. But if we're not willing, they can't raise the price. That part, this is missing. But okay, otherwise it's very good, very
Someone else
informative.
had it not been for the actions of the central bank. Or as Murray Rothbard explains, book, What
He's
Has
a-
Government Done to Our Money?
He's an Austrian.
Monetary inflation confers no general social benefit. Instead, it redistributes the wealth in favor of the first, and at the expense of the laggards to the race. And inflation is, in effect, a race to see who can get the new money earliest. The latecomers, the ones stuck with the loss, are often called the fixed income groups. As much of this wealth redistribution favors the government, this central bank policy can be considered a form of covert taxation. Unlike the income tax, sales tax, or property tax, where the taxpayer is aware that his or her money is being taken, the covert tax of a monetary inflation is discreet. Creating new money to fund government spending allows politicians and bureaucrats to divert wealth and resources to whoever they choose. But as the money spreads through the economy, it puts upward pressure on prices and diminishes the purchasing power of all those who are not a direct beneficiary of this government spending. Like any form of taxation, therefore, a monetary inflation is a wealth transfer from much of society for the benefit of the government. Using a monetary inflation to fund spending allows governments to expand their power. For most citizens would not consent to paying the high levels of taxes needed to fund modern governments, and only do so because a large portion of the tax is covert and masked in a diminished purchasing power. If governments were honest and directly taxed the citizenry, most people would realize they were being fleeced and quickly stop supporting politicians responsible for impoverishing them. Some people may contend that the ability of governments to finance their spending through the creation is a benefit of this central bank policy. For deeds allows them to act without having to do their action of raising tax levels. But as Robert Murphy explains in his book, Understanding Likes, to claim that monetary inflation is needed to deal with a crisis really just means that citizens of the countries involved wouldn't have tolerated the huge increases in explicit taxation. Instead, to finance such unprecedented expenditures, their governments had to resort to the hidden tax of inflation, where the transfer of purchasing power from their peoples would be cloaked in rising prices that could be blamed on speculators, trade unions, profiteers, and other villains, rather than the government's profligacy. The insidious nature of monetary inflation does not end here. It also drives wealth inequality. For second to politicians and bureaucrats, the rich are the greatest beneficiary of money creation. To understand why, we must recognize that one of the key mechanisms by which central banks, low interest rates entice people to borrow newly created money through the banking system. And who are the people most capable of borrowing this cheap credit? Those in the upper class, as they possess more of the assets needed to act as collateral on loans. With access to this cheap credit, the rich can spend it to purchase real estate, equities, fine art, vintage cars, precious metals, and other forms of wealth. The elevated demand for these assets pushes up prices, and this increases the net worth of everyone exposed to these asset classes, which again is primarily those in the upper class. The greatest benefit.
Did you catch the precious metals part? So the rich with the inflation buy precious metals. Now maybe that helps you. I'm sure everybody in my class gets to buy gold and silver. They understand why, but that's another reason with the inflation, the value of the money drops, but the gold right now is being suppressed. So it should be going up, but JP Morgan's holding it down for their buddies. All I can think is JP Morgan is getting paid by these BRICS countries, China, Russia, India, to keep the price down at this point. That's the only reason I know that they would still be doing it, because otherwise, let it go already. So we know JP Morgan is very dirty. He was involved with Madoff. He's involved with Enron. He's involved with everything crooked. As we heard Alligator say, the DOJ, the Department of Justice, is telling you that they're the worst. We'll just do another minute of this.
From the Fed's policies of the 21st century, writes Edward Chancellor, were the financial elite, who got to enhance their fortunes with cheap leverage at a time when asset values were driven higher by easy money. As one commentator put it, the top 1% of income-earning households that are most exposed to the market economy are dramatically outperforming the remaining 99% that are exposed to the real economy. In addition to allowing politicians, bureaucrats, and the upper class to leech wealth from the rest of us, there is a further reason why a monetary inflation is economically destructive. The low interest rates that drive this policy act as false signals, enticing individuals to overconsume and businesses to overexpand, to a degree not warranted by the long-term fundamentals of the economy. Easy money, explains the economist Henry Hazlitt, creates economic
Austrian.
distortions, encourages increased borrowing. It tends to encourage highly speculative ventures that cannot continue except under the artificial conditions of low interest rates that have given birth to them. On the supply side, the artificial reduction of interest ratio of capital. A common.
So this is very Austrian, this whole piece here, which is why I'm sharing it with you. So the low interest rates is what's called mal investments, an investment you make that you wouldn't make because there's 0% interest rates. Then he says, well, it doesn't, nobody wants to say because the interest rates are low. Again, if you're in fiat currency, you're fucked anyway, right? So what are you going to, so you don't save in the bank, you spend. Everybody becomes poor. But what does the professor in his class do? We all buy gold and silver. That's our means of savings. So we know it's going to do like the sugar, go from $7 to 7 cents to $22. That's what's going to happen with gold and silver. So that's our savings. We get the money out of the bank because the money is going to zero. So we don't want to be sitting there like idiots going, oh, geez, it went to zero. We had no idea. That's what they're doing, right? So they get the money and they invest it and they pay 0%. Now, as interest rates are going up, people are getting fucked because they did all these loans at 0%, and now they have to pay 5% if they didn't do fixed loans. So if they did variable loans, like cars and mortgages, they can't afford them now. So now a lot of people are going broke. Your only out is gold and silver, but they make it look like nobody wants it. Well, why would you be in gold and silver? It's not going to go anywhere. That's worthless. So that is what we get out of that. A very good, it's called The Uncensored Truth, Academy of Ideas. So it's a very good video. I highly recommend at least putting it in your liked as I've done. Now we got Andrew McGuire.
Join Subaru of Ann Arbor and the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society in our mission to deliver.
Has changed though, and we got to let it play out a bit, but it's changed. What do you think?
Why? Because like silver, they want to make money. They want to make some fiat off it. Now, I'll admit, I think the fundamental picture for silver and a relative valuation versus gold and the undervaluation then of gold makes silver look even more attractive is a tremendous, let's call it fiat making opportunity, which is why I own it. You can look at the precious metal mining companies the same way. You're like, well, this is like a leverage. This is like some kind of call option or something on the gold price. But they have their own all of them have their own fundamental issues and need a rising price. And so if you're in this and you own precious metal, physical precious metal for the store of value, sound money, lifeboat in a storm, they're doing exactly what they should do. And these day-to-day fluctuations are really meaningless. But the problem is so many in our sector are also, and I myself included, trying to make some extra fiat at this so you can buy even more metal. And that's what makes them maddening in the day-to-day stuff. But man, I tell you, the value proposition of owning the precious metals based upon all that stuff we've discussed in the past, the rehypothecated and over leverage of every single ounce of gold. It's priced as if it's plentiful when it's not. What's plentiful is all these other garbage derivative forms of gold. That's what's plentiful. But when the time comes and everybody wants to a gold, as you mentioned, stuff that the U.S. has given away, and forward sold and leased out and everything else. When the time comes and everybody's scrambling for those ounces, there's going to be a rude awakening, and price is going to be revalued multiples higher. And we're stuck kind of waiting for that, but I'm sure confident that day is coming.
And you're talking about this disparity between paper and physical, basically, is what we're kind of talking about. Mm-hmm. I think you've done a lot of good work on comics, and in fact even Congress. I forget who made the speech, but someone said, "Well, what we need to do is create this paper gold and create enough to actually control the price." Right. And by literally listing in 1974. After the Bretton Woods Agreement got shut down, and central banks kept buying and buying and buying. They still said, "Well, screw $38, screw $42. Hey, we'll go to the foreign exchange market and we'll continue to swap our dollars for gold. Thank you very much." And the drain never stopped. So they had to do something. And so for this last 50 years, since 1974, they've had systems where they were able to, as you say, what the hell, just create synthetic supply, keep adding it just at the right moment, just when the right number of speculators have gone, yeah, I've bought it for the right reason, but then counterintuitively, suddenly, bang, down it goes. Yeah. Because they can create unlimited amount of gold.
Correct.
But on the 1st of January of this year, spot gold, the over-the-counter markets, became Basel III compliant. First tier, it converted gold into a first-tier asset. So now you've got the COMEX that is non-compliant. You've got the over-the-counter market, which is compliant and must be backed by physical gold. So now we've got the Fed sitting on a broken manipulation tool. And this is what I'm trying to tell people. Yeah, I know. Historically, we all say, well, it's going to go down because open interest has gone, the short interest has gone, it's going to come back down, and it's almost self-fulfilling. But I think two things happened. Suddenly, you've got the speculator group, which could be 100% relied on to borrow gold from the house, literally wait. You're holding the book on them, you know exactly when to nail them, and you nail them at the right point when they can't take any more pain and rinse them out. But there's a group of speculators that worked out, hang on, it's a first-tier asset class. Alongside bonds, cash, hey, that's a good risk hedge. And so we've got a split in the speculator category, which is actually, and then you've got this backdoor called the exchange for physical. That is literally the ability for a central bank to prey on the COMEX, take the undeliverable casino chips called open interest, put them into the spot market and take delivery. So this is, I keep trying to tell people, the game has changed though. And we got to let it play out a bit, but it's changed. What do you think?
Yeah, and the other factor in all of this, because they're all excellent points, and that's speeding along the process. The other factor in all this is this de-dollarization movement that you and I have discussed later decade as well. We may have discussed this the last time we visited, Andy, but to me, the central event of last year, 2022, the war in Ukraine, and you can come up with all these other headlines that are memorable. But the biggest event was the first weekend of March of 2022, about a week after the war started, when the U.S. did two things. They seized Russia's foreign-held foreign currency reserves, about $300 billion, froze them, seized them, stole them, however you want to put it, and also kicked them out of SWIFT. And that action right there took that wheel of de-dollarization and gave it a big spin forward. And now efforts, anybody can just follow the headlines. Look for this on a weekly basis. These efforts being made by these, they call them the BRIC countries, to come up with an alternative system. Now, they'll need some type of trading accounting unit, some type of currency for all the global trade that they're going to conduct. And that's very likely to include gold as a basket, to give it some stability. So as that comes on, not even with the impact that has on the dollar and the traditional markets that we deal with, just the fact that that's now those are going to be physical claims on gold, and that's what it's going to take to finally readjust, reset whatever this system is, a drawdown of physical metal. Every person watching us that can take an ounce out of the system and stick it in their safe is doing their part in ending this, because the banks will continue to lever and continue to rehypothecate and continue to create futures contracts and forward contracts and all the other crap, all this, financialized stuff. They'll do it all the way up to the end. But it's only a bank run, a true bank run on physical metal that will break it. Now, it may come from...
See, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. That's why I only like Andrew Maguire. We could all buy gold ounces till we're blue in the face. Until COMEX breaks, they're the ones control the price. So you got to get them out of controlling the price. This is why I don't like the guest, but Andrew made some good points. So eventually China and Russia are going to say enough's enough, let the price run. And what do you think? JP Morgan was probably behind the sugar in Cuba being 7 cents a pound or whatever. And then it went to 22. And that's the same thing here. China and Russia will want the price to go up. Now, when he talks about de-dollarization, again, he misses the point that only an Austrian can understand. Nobody wants the dollar. So de-dollarization this is the fat, ugly woman nobody wants at the end of the bar. That's what this is. So nobody wants it. No demand, no value. But he doesn't get that. He says, well, de-dollarization, he doesn't understand what de-dollarization just means. People don't want the U.S. dollar, but he doesn't know to carry it to the conclusion, which is no demand, no value. If nobody wants it, it's not worth anything. I can sell this. I can try to sell this on the store, on the shelf. I can sell it for $50. It doesn't sell. I'll go to 40. It doesn't sell. I go to 20. It doesn't sell. Nobody wants it. If nobody wants it, I can't sell it. It's all Say's law. We have to come and demand it and buy it. Nobody is going to demand this. What Alligator and Egon always say is once people realize this is worthless, and it is, they won't want it anymore, which then kills the value. This idiot just doesn't quite get it. He kind of has the de-dollarization, but he misses the point that it means that nobody is demanding it. No demand, no value. So JP Morgan, who's controlling COMEX, will only stay in COMEX if there's profit to be made there. And how long can that be? I don't know.
Other metals, I mean, I think we all should be watching copper. Goldman says above ground copper may be extinct by this.
To deliver.
What's the fucking with the ads?
I haven't covered all sorts of.
It's right in the middle of the. So now I got to go back.
Failed to deliver.
Now I got to go back to get the concept.
They had to put a blindfold on him. We're going to go to the HSBC vault. Took him in the vault, and he said, took off their blindfolds. This is so secure. Look at this. GLD picks up a bar, and the serial number. Somebody bright picked up the serial number. Hang on a minute. That doesn't belong to GLD. And you remember our friend Naylor Leyland had just been
all he's saying is how GLD or these ETFs don't have any gold. That's what he's saying there. So basically, if you are buying an ETF thinking I own gold, you don't own anything. There's no gold there to own, which is what I keep telling you. Don't be in an ETF thinking you got gold. If you want gold, you buy gold, period. It's way underpriced, considerably underpriced, like the sugar. 7 cents and it goes to $22. And that's back in the 30s. When 7 cents was a good number. So how much was $22 in the 1930s? And that's my point on inflation and everything we talk about. $22 in the 1930s is not $22 now. It's about $2,000. A car was $3,000. Now cars are $50,000, $60,000. That shows you the value of the dollar going down. So let's see, is there anything worth?
I took off their blindfolds. This is so secure. Look, this is GLD picks up a bar. One of those bankers, as we call them, literally 1 or 2 days later, $550. 2 years, April 13 to April 2015, $550.
Yep.
What a farce.
Yes.
The cracks in the physical market, if no one could deliver, if they'd reached a point where they'd already run into a brown bottom type situation. Again, it took 2000 to 2013. Suddenly, we're now back in the same situation where they've run out of liquidity to play this game.
Right.
And Basel III is one of the things that's causing them a major, and this is why every central bank except the Fed, who is stuck holding the bag after, as you say, in March, what do? Came in and did the same thing again. Hammered, pounded, brought more and more paper gold in. In the meantime, every other bank by November of 2022 had covered the shorts. Bank of International Settlements covered 500 tons. There it was, zero. As we go and enter the new year, they're still reducing their position. The only bits they hold short are borrowed for the Fed. But the Bank of International Settlements, if they've covered their swaps, leases, exposed to an upside price revaluation, along with all the other banks. What the hell is the Fed doing here?
Yeah. And you're reminding me now. I remember writing something 7 or 8 years ago. I remember. Okay,
so we don't want to listen to the other guy. He's an idiot. But this is the problem where I get kind of pissed about the guest. I want to hear Andrew McGuire because he tells us stuff. The guest. Now, this guest went on this other show, and he didn't even bring up physical gold. I was watching him go, oh, maybe he knows what he's talking about. He didn't even bring up physical and paper. So he talks one way on Andrew Maguire and another way on this other show, which was an American one. So I don't understand. I only trust Andrew and Alistair Alligator and Egon. This is a problem with this guy. He doesn't really get it. It's enough to buy gold, but that's what he does. He like sells gold, or he's in on that game, which makes it extremely difficult. So that's what we have today on our videos. Yeah, excuse me. Just 1 second. Anyway, so sorry about that. So it all comes back to the same thing. It's all Say's law. It's all free market economics. What COMEX is, it's price fixing as we know it. Anytime the government gets involved, that's what inflation is. It's price fixing by the government. JP Morgan actually printing the money. And then giving it to the government and giving it to their banking buddies and bailing out the banks. So the most important thing you should remember is, what is inflation? It's printing the money. It's the valuing. It's not even printing it so I can go to work, get paid, and buy goods. It's the extra money. It's giving out welfare, giving out Social Security, giving Ukraine money, spending money. Government just giving us money is inflation. $10 trillion really makes the value of the money go down. You can see by the interest rates, really that's the true measure of it. So if you look at a house rate and you look at a car rate and you look at the interest rates 2 years ago to this year, that's the real inflation. because they can't fuck that up and they can't hide it. So if interest rates went from 4% for cars to 7% for cars, that's inflation. And the same thing with houses. If they went from 3% to now they're 7 or 8, and that's for good credit, that's how you measure inflation. And that's not, so if a housing went up from 3 to 7, you can't say it went up 4%, but you can see that there is inflation and it is going up. It doesn't give you the exact amount, but the way the government does it, they don't put in, volatile food and energy prices. What the fuck does that mean? So if Oreos went from 2 to 5, well, that's 100%. So inflation is 100%. They won't say that, so they throw it out and they go, well, let's look at the thing really that didn't go up. Oh, let's look at phones and computers that aren't really going up, that are already stable. They're already at market and they probably won't go up. Maybe they go up a little bit, but it's all the market. They want to sell the goods for whatever it is. And so therefore the prices are controlled by us, by Say's law. We control the prices because we have a deal and we say, well, I'm going to buy the Canadian club for $50. So I make the conscious decision in the contract between me and Canada Club, or Hiram Walker, as it's better known. I'm going to buy the whiskey. So we go into a contract and here's your money. And that's what they sell it for. So if they raise the price and I don't want, and I'm here, I don't buy it. And you got to lower the price. So it's not inflation. It's not deflation. It's all bullshit. The terms they might use if prices go up or down is strictly, it's the real inflation is worthless. That's what the inflation is. Dollar, there is only, you're killing the dollar inflation. Prices are not inflation. There's no such thing as wage inflation. There's no such thing as deflation. The lowering of the prices is not deflation. It's the market. There's no such thing as velocity. How fast the dollar moves. How the fuck do you measure that? Not only that, it doesn't matter. We don't care because if you save your money and you buy gold, then that's fine. Who the fuck is this? $54. What country's 54? 4, 6, 10. 54, 9, and then I get 10 digits. Probably a scam. I keep getting the scam on the phone where this girl says, oh, I see you wanted not car insurance, but insurance if you get into an accident type of thing. And she calls and I block it. And then she calls again on a different number and I block it. She keeps calling and I keep blocking. So I don't know what the fuck that's all about. Then I had one guy pretend to be Amazon. This is Amazon. You have an Amazon order out there. Is this a professor? You got an Amazon order. I don't have an Amazon order. And then you call back. They don't say Amazon. And the guy clearly, they didn't say, hi, this is, and I don't even know if Amazon would call you. I would think Amazon would email you. It's like certain things. They're not like PayPal. PayPal's not calling you. They're going to email you, and you don't even do that. And you never go into it. You go into PayPal and log on and see if there's anything. Because I'll get that. Well, you just bought this, da 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 da. And so I ignore it. I go into my PayPal account the normal way, and I don't see any transaction or anything. And, there's a lot of scams that happen. So just ignore them. Ignore these phone calls. If you didn't order from Amazon, you didn't order from Amazon. And the banks are pretty good at blocking anyway. They'll call you up. Did you order this? So usually you get a call from the bank saying, did you order this? And you go, no, and they block it. So I've had that before. So normally these are trying to get you scared, and then you talk to them and you give them your bank account or your social security number, whatever Amazon wanted. Sometimes I play along to see what's really going on, but be careful with that. If you didn't order anything, just hang up. You didn't order anything. You didn't approve it. They don't have your credit card, and you just it's not worth your time to even talk to these idiots. But I called that number back, the Amazon number, and some guy says hello. Oh yeah, you must be Amazon. Yeah, okay. The only thing I do sometimes I play along. I give a fake name or a fake address. If they ask for social, it's a fake social or a fake credit card, just to waste their time. But generally, I don't have time for that. So, a lot of good information here on debit cards, on what is inflation, what happens to Cuba. They got rich, and then in came the communists. They put market controls on it. No more free market, no more Say's law. What's happening here? A little bit of Say's law is still in effect, but they're trying to, slowly kill us, basically. They're trying to control us, and we can't lose the freedom. And so, but the car dealership said, well, where should I move to China? They got all the gold. They're going to be, the West is going away to the East. Should I move to the East? And I says, well, you don't want to move to a communist place because they'll blow themselves up. China and Russia won't last. I said, you've got to go. You don't want to go to Russia or China, that's for sure. So that's really the key is what's happening there. But you never want to go to a communist place. Look at Cuba. You want to go to Cuba? That's what China is. It's the same thing. China allowed some capitalists to grow, but now that the capitalist is getting big, they cut it off, and now they're going back to communism. But don't ever think for a minute China is not communist. They might have capitalist markets, but even that is becoming government control. Like the housing market collapsed because the government got involved. China is not a capitalist country. They might be financially a little bit, and then they're getting to gold, but they are very much a communist government with communists. They locked everybody up, all their citizens, for COVID. Oh, there's one case, and they physically had a lock. They had fenced it in and locked you in to this little place. They closed the banks. China's not the place to go. I don't know. You got to be out of your mind. And neither is Russia. Now, I know my girlfriend's in Russia. She's, get me out of here, which I am. Now, she's okay, but I got to help her, right? She can't even afford rent, which isn't expensive, a couple $100. She lives in one of these apartment, stacked 8-story, all these people apartments. That's where she lives. She does have a job, but she's not in control of how much she gets. The state says this is what you make. So anyway, we stay in the U.S. as long as we can. You've got red and blue, which they're trying to divide and conquer. That's the only way to beat the U.S., except for them fucking their own, us fucking up the dollar is how you beat. Now what do you don't have a country without money. You got gold, but that will drive everybody to gold anyway. So even if BRICS doesn't announce their gold, all the countries go to gold because they don't have choice. Because it's going to be the only currency to survive is gold and silver. And as he said, there's not a big supply of it. It's very limited in supply, gold and silver. So therefore, you don't really have, you'll have 10 million people chasing 1 million ounces. And when I was at the Toyota dealership, my buddy told me about this place. He says, if you want gold bars or silver bars, this is like the wholesaler's wholesale. This is like the guy. And then he sells it to all these high-end jewelers and high-end the coin places. Like he's the one that gives your coin place their coins. He's the one that gives the jewelry place that I went to their jewels. He's like the maker of it. So he gave me that. I went to go pay him a visit. I'd love a nice, silver bar, but a real James Bond one. As far as a gold bar, I can't afford it. Maybe I will down the road once I turn in my silver, once it goes to 10-1, which is where it's going. So keep that in mind. Silver will go 10-1. It's 80 something to 1. Well, it's $19.50 and it's $22. So 10 to 1 would be $200. So, so it's quite a bit, way under value. I was watching one idiot, and he's saying, oh, the silver miners want the price down because in Mexico they'd have to pay more wages. A total Keynesian. What are you talking about? Wages are set by wages. How much do you want to work for me? It's got nothing to do with the price of silver. The price of silver could be $10 or $2,000. You're still paying the guy whatever you're paying him to work in a silver mine or wherever these guys are working for the silver company. So why would anybody in the right mind want to keep the price of their inventory down? Nobody in the right mind in a capitalist, laissez-faire world would want their price down. Who would want that? If I'm Canadian Club, I want this to go to $200 because my cost, let's say, is $40, and I'm selling it for $50. I'd love it to go to $200, provided my cost didn't also go to $200. So if my cost stayed at $40 and it went to $200, why would I not want it? Oh, I got to pay my workers more? I don't have to pay my workers more. My workers work. I work for what I get for Harley. Whatever they sell the Harley for doesn't matter. The price could go up. Let's say it's $20,000 for a motorcycle. It could go to $50,000 for a motorcycle. You're not paying me more. You are paying me my hourly rate. The price goes up or the price goes down for motorcycles. What the fuck is this idiot talking about with silver? Well, if the price of silver goes up, nobody's keeping the price of silver from going up except JP Morgan and the derivatives. Nobody wants, the silver mines do not want this price to be $26 an ounce. So this is a problem. Then you get these idiot guests on these shows and you're like, oh, this guy, you're wasting my time because I'm listening for something and it's the same shit. And I'm like, so there's another one here. So there's this woman. Now she's a stockbroker. She's not an economist. I don't agree with her. So she does this on As Good as Gold, which I can't believe these idiots. I'm kind of in shock that they don't call me to be on their show, but they'll call this idiot, Lynette Zhang. The crisis is unfolding now. No, the crisis has been unfolding for 3 years. Banks and corps all underwater. Well, you're not telling me anything I don't know. Don't waste your time. I didn't even watch this because I know this woman doesn't really know. She's kind of into gold and silver, but you can't really understand why. She's a salesman and she wants to sell her gold and silver, but she can't. She's not Austrian. She doesn't really understand it. She's a stockbroker who's now selling gold, who buy gold. Like, she probably knows buying gold because of inflation's good, but she can't really explain it the way I do. So I don't waste your time on it. Now we go to Alistair. Well, we go to Andrew McGuire, but I don't like the guest, but we go to him. So that's what we do. So with that said, the baseball day, we have locked the Yankees under 8, and we have locked Colorado over 13. A lot of bad pitchers. See, the problem is you have so many bad players, and they're not major league applicable, that it's very hard to predict a lot of the games. We can bet Scherzer and Verlander and McCullough and bet against the KC guy, but you got California winning 25-1 yesterday, but they could win 3-1 today. I mean, you don't know. Even though they're facing a pitcher with a 7 ERA, and they should get another, not 25, but they should get 10 runs. It's in Colorado. And really, you're not getting, it's so bad that it's very inconsistent. And you don't want to bet inconsistent. You want to bet consistent. You want to bet Lawrence Taylor. You want to bet Montana. You know what they're going to do. Brady, Rogers. Again, NFL, it's going to be the Jets, it's going to be Denver, it's going to be Cincinnati and Jacksonville or Tennessee. That's going to be your division winners. And in the NFC, it's going to be the Niners, now that Brock Purdy's there, Philadelphia, Minnesota, and probably New Orleans. Those are going to be your 8 winners. Again, New Orleans, it could be Atlanta. I mean, it's shaky. It ain't going to be Carolina. And if you see these young quarterbacks like Stroud or Richardson play, we're betting them under heavily because they're not going to score, and we'll just bet them. It'll like if Houston plays Indy and those 2 guys are your quarterbacks, there won't be 10 points in the game. So it'll be easy unders because Vegas will take the stat. They'll just take the average. Well, they scored 30 in these games, 35. We'll make it a 45, and they'll never get there. But that's thinking third dimensionally, which is what I do. That's the best way to play these rookies who suck. And in baseball, it's tough because there was 4 or 5 games that were bullpen pitcher pitching. I thought each team had like 5 or 6 pitchers yet. They go 5 innings. They pitch 100 out hurt. I don't really get how so many injured pitchers, or there's just so many bad pitchers. But they have too many pitchers, and most of them aren't good. This is the problem with baseball. It sucks right now. And with the quicking of the time. So you go to, and then the times are earlier, like the Tigers. They start at 6:45, and they're over at the clock. Well, fuck, I'm not going to go waste my time. It's like going to a 60-minute movie. Man, fuck that. Anyway, so I think we got it. We went over college and pro the last 2 videos, so please use those. If you want to get the whole pro rundown, go to yesterday's. If you want college, go to the day before's. I got to buy my book, and I will buy it today, I promise, and then fill in the starting quarterbacks. I got to go talk to Kenzie and see what she's up to, and that's about it. My Russian girl just said her daughter went to Sochi. Sochi's in Russia where the Olympics were. It's on the Black Sea. And they got to take a 2-day train. She says they got to pass through where the problem was with Putin yesterday with the Wagner group. She was a little worried. She says, well, it should be better by now. And I worry when Jenna goes from her city to Poland in the Ukraine that they're going to bomb the train. So far they haven't. They're not interested. They're just trying to bomb buildings or Kiev or whatever. But that's the scary part. Otherwise, the day-to-day of these girls is pretty much my gal lives in St. Pete. She doesn't really see the war. I had to tell her there was an explosion in a mall in Moscow. She didn't even know about it. They don't tell her. And my girl in Ukraine, there's a missile that hits every once in a while, and the alarms go off. But most of the days, she's going to the beach. She's going to a barbecue, So she goes, and, once in a while there's war, but most of the time it's not constant. And she lives in a very doesn't live in like Donetsk or Crimea or Kiev. She doesn't live in those cities. And then I have friends who moved from Kiev. One of my friends moved from Kiev to New York, and one of my friends moved from Kiev to Washington, D.C. I don't know why you would move to New York and Washington, D.C., but they're both here. So we will see. But so they are able to get out. My gal from Ukraine can get out, but she stays with her family. To give her a lot of credit, but I hope she'll be okay. Anyway, so that's about it. Off to the pool today. My back feels fine. It occasionally gets tough when I'm showering and I got to look up. Even that's getting a little easier. I think if I just stand, it hurts because my vertebrae are very close together. When I'm sitting, they're fine because the weight isn't. In the pool, they're fine because the weight's really small. But I can't stand. I got to walk. If I walk, my weight's moving, I'm fine. If I'm standing, it isn't. That's why I'm drinking the ginger tea is very, very healthy for this, as well as cinnamon, as well as the dark chocolate and the avocados. So most of the things I eat are for the, whatchamacallit, I can't think of the word, the pain, whatever. It's the pain that's there. All these alleviate the pain, versus not good for your kidneys. I don't know. I don't have a problem going to the bathroom. I do take the cod liver oil pills, which are very good for you also. So again, it's like avoiding the sugar is like avoiding the dollar, right? The free market in food is go eat this stuff. The free market in dollars is you substitute it for gold. And never once am I spending money. I am not spending a nickel on gold. I am doing a trade, free trade. How much is gold? Here's $2,000. Here's 2,000 green dollars, fiat, and I get a real money. I get a real ounce of gold. And that all I'm doing is trading. It's not costing me a penny when you really understand it. Now I got, how much money do you got? Well, I don't have any money, but now I got 2,000 in gold. So you got 2,000. So I went from 2,000 in paper. That's my net worth. Now I sell it. I got 2,000 in gold. So now I got 2,000, but it's in gold, not in paper. I'm still at the same thing, but in the future, the 2,000 in paper is going to zero and the 2,000 in gold is going to 50,000. That's the equation people don't understand. Nobody believes it's going because they don't understand COMEX price fixing it. So they think, oh, it'll never go up, but they don't understand the price fixing. They say it's supply and demand. And then I realized that they're idiots, that they're clueless. It's not supplying. This is not supply and demand. Nowhere is gold and silver supply and demand. This is supply and demand. This is supply and demand. So what they put out there, they supply, we buy, and we demand, we give them the price. But not gold and silver is not supply and demand. It's not market rates. And that's what we're waiting for. And will it happen? Absolutely. Why? Because of BRICS, because of all the dollars collapsing, because they're not including Say's Law, as I read from Alligator yesterday. So because nothing is done at free market and Say's Law, where we set the prices and we demand what we want, we get paid and we spend. That's Say's Law. That is the only thing that works, and they're not using it now. So all their dollars they're printing are going to inflate to zero. And the only thing that's going to be left is gold and silver. So we buy gold and silver now. So when the dollars start collapsing, which they have to, they're all going to collapse. And then everybody, where are they going to run? So the dollar collapses. Where are you going to run? Euros, Swiss francs, British pounds? You can't. So you run to gold because it's the only thing. Bitcoin is not money. So don't kid yourself. Don't think Bitcoin's money. When the money goes to zero, Bitcoin goes to zero. When the money goes to zero, gold does not go to zero. Gold then goes to gold, whatever the value of the gold is. Could be 100,000 for the ounce of gold. It won't be in dollars. It'll just be in gold, like the Romans. Go back to the Romans. They didn't have dollars. They had gold and silver coins, and that's what it bought. You want grocery, clothes, the togas. You have a toga party with Jim Belushi. Whatever it was, a house, they didn't have cars, or they used gold and silver. So the gold and silver would create it. And I had thought on barter before I leave. People are like, oh, well, we go to a barter system. Well, I hate to break it to you, but in a barter system now. Barter that nobody understands is I am bartering this for this. This is the barter. This is all barter. This buys me that is the same as gold for this, as a Rolex for this, whatever. We are doing barter now, but this is our barter piece. So we are in a barter system. We always have been, and we always will be. You're always going to barter this fake money for goods. You go to the grocery store, you're bartering. The barter is the dollars or the debit card, and it's an electronic payment, not digital. So if I go to the grocery store now to buy chicken and it costs me $10 and I get some other stuff, it's $50 at the grocery store, I am bartering my money on my debit card for the food. We've always been in a barter world. We will always be in a barter world. You're trading something for something. That's what barter means. It's a trade. It's a fair trade. So when somebody says, am I going to barter with silver? You can, but will the store be able to trade your silver in? So in other words, if I cut the silver and I need $50 worth of groceries, what's the value of the silver, which we'll know, and then how are you going to give me change? So let's say it's the value of silver is $1,000, but I buy, I don't know, somehow $50, $60 worth of goods. How are you going to give me the $950 back? That'll be the point. So they'll need dollars to flush that to give you change. Or you'll go to a coin store and trade in your ounce of silver for 1,000 whatevers, put it in your bank and use it on your debit card. So that probably won't change. So you'll probably still be bartering with your debit card or your credit card to get that. So that'll be the same thing. So with that said, I got an email. I paid for Teaserking today. Teaserking I put on iPower, which is a server to hold the site. And it used to be like $150. It was $235 today. So it hit my credit card. I didn't even realize. I knew it was going to pay. I didn't know what card I was using. So it hit my credit card. And so now I have Teaserking on a server. And the other thing I do is on another site where I pay for the www.teaserking.com so nobody can take it. So there's two things. You got the server and then you got the name. So today was the server. The name's not expensive. It's like $25 or whatever. But I was shocked. It was $235 for the server. It used to be like $150. So anyway, I don't know. I'm not an IT guy. I don't know how to price out for servers. But anyway, so I'll get the magazine today, put in the college quarterbacks and kind of review some of the college that we're looking for. Again, I have ladders roll, overs, unders, Z's, A's, whatever the teams are. But I can tell you Utah is going to stay the same and USC is going to stay the same. Washington and Oregon, UCLA should be an over. TCU should be the same. Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia. Will Illinois be different? Will Northwestern be different? Penn State, they lost their quarterback. So it's the teams that lose their quarterback. How are they going to be? How's Ohio State? Well, it's all plug and play with them. So they'll just put in anybody, some high school kid, and then he'll throw for 40 touchdowns and 10 picks, and he'll be the first pick of the draft because Ohio State's a system school, and nobody's figuring that out but us. And I wouldn't draft a quarterback from Ohio State, never. Even as the last pick in the draft, I'd rather take Brock Purdy from Iowa State. At least he knows how to read a defense. So anyway, that's what's going on. Go buy your gold and silver. BRICS conference in August, but it's really, when do people start? It's over when people realize the dollar over. When people realize it's the dollar going down in value and it's worthless is when it ends. Now, what date is that? I don't know. The BRICS currency going to gold back. Well, now the dollar's not going to be competitive with the BRICS currency. We know that. I would rather have gold than the dollar. I don't think everybody here realizes that, but I'm not on this channel. But in America, I don't think these clowns understand anything about it. One guy wants oil stocks instead of gold. So once you understand that, as soon as people wake up and realize the dollar is gone, that's when gold goes through the roof. That's when JP Morgan won't be able to save it. As Andrew McGuire said, there was this tier 3 or whatever came in January, and that means you have to have the actual gold to do the derivatives. They're still doing it illegally, And now there's this tier 4 coming in where that should end it. But COMEX is very close to ending. You can't sell paper gold anymore. Or you can't price control paper gold. Let's put it that way. So if you sell the paper to lower the price, you can't do that. You can sell the paper if somebody's stupid enough to buy it, like an ETF, but the ETFs don't affect the price, but it's not supply and demand. So as soon as we see that, that's what we're waiting for. And it will happen. Oh my God, it's been 50 years, not going to happen. Yeah, with BRICS, with these currencies being inflated to nothing, and you can see country after country, the banks going out, people will not want to keep their money in the banks. They'll put it into their stocks till the stocks start dropping. Once people realize the dollar has no value, it's the bye-bye blues. You're out of dollars, and that's when gold takes a serious run up. So that's it. Again, your locks, take the inks under, Colorado over, www.teaserking.com. I'll probably be on Tuesday or Wednesday, but certainly go to teaserking.com, get my email, and email me if you like. If you have any questions, if something major happens to gold or silver or something in the economics, I would do like Tuesday night. If something happened Tuesday after work, I would come on and do it. We got July 4th off the following week, so I will not be working then. I'll probably do a show Tuesday, but then I'll have to work Friday. But it depends how much I want to work. So I get paid when I work. So July 4th, at most I could get is 32 hours. But because I'm working 4 9s, I theoretically could get 36 hours if I really want to work. I don't think I'll work 9 hours on Friday. That'll probably be an 8-hour day or 7-hour day. But as long as I get like 35 hours, I'm fine. At the rate I'm getting and with everything else, so I'll enjoy 4th of July, but I won't kill myself that week, but I will lose pay for that, which is fine. I know that, but I'm making more, so I budget it like that also. So it's just a few holidays, Labor Day, and then it'll be Thanksgiving and then Christmas and stuff like that. All right, everybody, have a great day. Go enjoy the sun. It's 2:00. I'm off to the pool. Hopefully they're open. Yesterday, there's a shortage of lifeguards, and I couldn't swim. I did bike and hot tub, but it kind of pissed me off. So I went to my pool and swam, but I'd rather be at the club, and then hot tub and bike, do everything. I'd rather do everything there and then come home and relax as opposed to coming home and now I got to go to the pool again because I couldn't use it. So hopefully it'll be open. Anyway, take care. Buy your gold and silver, whatever you can. Your 1/10 of an ounce, your quarter, your ounces. I know people are told to wait until you can buy an ounce, but at this point, I went to the store, you had 1/10 of an ounces. I bought 1/10 of an ounces. I was not, and the owner didn't understand. He says, yeah, but it's $2,500 for an ounce as opposed to 2,000. I says, yeah, but I have, I'll buy the ounces when I have the money, but if in between I got a few $100s and I can buy more gold, I'll buy the 1/10 of an ounce. I don't care. It's buying the gold. I'm not, sure, I'd rather not buy 1/10 of an ounces and pay $2,500 for the same ounce of gold I could pay $2,000. But I'd rather buy a 1/10 of an ounce to go buy the 1/10 of an ounce and 7-8 ounces of silver. So I'd rather do that than not buy the 1/10 of an ounce at all. Because you don't know if there'll be anything. So anyway, go buy your gold, please. You'll thank me later. Buy your silver at least. And I went to the Chinese, and after talking to the Toyota guy that they were really rich and they told me they're poor, I gave them the dirtiest look. She's like, hi. And I'm like, yeah, I thought we were friends. I've been coming to the Chinese for 30 years, and you're fucking lying to me. See, I can't. That's my only rule. Don't fucking lie to me, because it's disrespectful that you don't think you can be honest with me. You can be honest with me. You could just say, well, look, I really don't want to talk about gold, and I wouldn't get upset. But if you lie to me and say I don't have any money, and you got a shitload of money, and you're sitting in dollars, go fuck yourself, because you're gonna lose all your money. And I'm trying to tell you, and you don't want my free advice. And I told him I have a master's, and if you don't want that from a guy with a master's in economics, go fuck yourself. So I didn't didn't give him a tip. And she said, have a nice day. And I didn't say a word. I just took my food and left. Like, go fuck yourself. I hate people like that. They're so fucking weak and they're so fucking stupid. Tell somebody, be honest, be a person. Sorry, I don't really want it. Like the communist. I just say, I don't want to talk to you. I don't have anything I want to talk to you, a communist, about. So instead of dicking around, I just say, I don't want to talk to you. You're a communist. Be a man. Say exactly what you feel. Say what's on your mind. And then he understands he doesn't want to talk to me because I'm a communist. I mean, it's just terrible. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Good luck. Buy your gold and silver. You don't have much time before it really pops. And this August meeting with BRICS and the U.S. going out and all these other countries. Look for British. The British pound's $1.20. Look for it to go down to $1.05. They're heavily inflated in the UK. Alligators worried about it. So look for that to really go down. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Go enjoy. I hope you learned. And please ask questions if something is confusing. I know it's hard, but I try to explain it at a very low level so everybody understands it. Otherwise, there's no point in teaching if people aren't getting it. All right. Thank you very much. Have a great day.